Hello everyone, my name is Yordan Arya and I'm from SME1 IUPAC. Today we are going to discuss about the introduction of naming ionic and covalent compounds. Before that, what is a compound? Compound is a chemical substance composed of many identical molecules composed of atoms from more than one element held together by a chemical bond. In other words, a compound is a substance composed of two different elements. Um, there are two types of compound. The first one being the covalent compound or the molecular compound, and the second one is the ionic compound. Um, how to differentiate both of these compounds? The rules of naming these compounds are very different. A molecular compound is composed out of nonmetals plus metals, and these compounds use the prefix like tri, tetra, or penta, while the ionic compound doesn't use those prefix and is composed out of metals and non-metals. Let's start with the molecular compound. A covalent or molecular compound is a chemical compound made out of elements connected by a covalent bond. Covalent bond is a chemical bond that involves the sharing of electron pairs between atoms. The IUPAC, the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, has a prefix of numerical number that will be used in naming all compounds. Those prefixes represent their value. Mono represent 1, di represent 2, tri represent 3, tetra represents 4, penta represents 5, hexa represents 6, hepta represents 7, octa is 8, nona is 9, and deca represents 10. These are a must-know thing that you need to know to name any compound. Here is the example. There's a CO. C stands for carbon and O stands for oxygen. There's one C and one O. We don't need the prefix mono for the first atom. We will use mono on the second atom, so carbon monoxide. The next one is CO2. C stands for carbon and O stands for oxygen. There are one carbon and two oxygen, so carbon dioxide. NO2 is nitrogen plus dioxide, and N2O3. There are two nitrogens, so use the prefix di, and there is 3 oxygen, so use the prefix tri. So the whole thing together is dinitrogen trioxide. If you could see, all the suffixes ends with IDE. More examples. PCl4 is So 1 phosphorus and 4 tetrachloride. So phosphorus tetrachloride PCl5 is 1 phosphorus and 5 pentachloride. So phosphorus pentachloride. And CbR4 1 carbon and 4 tetrabromide. Carbon tetrabromide. BrF5 is 1 bromine and 5 pentafluoride. So bromine pentafluoride. More examples. SiF4. Si is silicon. So 1 silicon and 4 tetrafluoride. So silicon tetrafluoride. SF6 is 1 sulfur and 6 is hexafluoride. So sulfur hexafluoride. P3O5, 3 triphosphorus and 5 pentaoxide. Triphosphorus pentaoxide. Next one is P2O3, 2 means diphosphorus and 3 trioxide, which means diphosphorus trioxide. Moving on to the ionic compound. Ionic compound is a chemical compound composed of ions held together by an electrostatic force. Here's an example. NaCl with sodium and chlorine. The ionic compounds are composed of ions, so we have the sodium ions and chlorine ions. The positively charged ion is called a cation, while the negatively charged ion is called a anion. The way you name the anion, you change the suffix of the compound with IDE. So NaCl is sodium chloride. There's a CaO. Ca stands for calcium and O stands for oxygen. So calcium oxide. Moving on to polyatomic ions. A polyatomic ions is a covalently bonded set of 2 or more atoms or of a metal complex that can be considered to behave as a single unit, and that has a net charge that is not zero. A polyatomic ions are the more complex part of the ionic compound because we have to memorize them to name the ionic compound. Here are a few of them. NO3- is called a nitrate. NO2- is called a nitrite with 1 less oxygen. 8-ATE has 1 more oxygen than ITE. PO4- is known as phosphate. PO3- is called phosphite. SO4- is called sulfate. SO3- is also known as sulfite. OH- is called hydroxide. CN- called cyanide. CrO4 2 minus is called chromium. Cr2O7 2 minus is known for dichromic. There are lots of more than only this 10, but I think that is enough to know how to use the polyatomic ions to name them. Here's an example. Li stands for lithium, and that the Li plus ion. The next part is a polyatomic ion, NO3 minus, is also called nitrate. So LiNO3 is known as lithium plus nitrate, so lithium nitrate. The next example, we have KCN. K is known for potassium, and Cn is the polyatomic ion known as cyanide. So KCN is potassium cyanide. So to name the ionic compound with polyatomic ions, we need to know the polyatomic ions. The next example is dealing with transition metals. Let's try TiBr2 and TiBr3. Ti is also known as titanium, and Br or bromine, but for the ionic compound we are going to use bromide. Same thing for TiBr3. Ti is called titanium, and Br is bromide. Same thing like the above. For the ionic compound we are going to use bromide, but both compounds can't be the same name. So TiBr2 is called titanium 2 bromide, and the TiBr3 is called titanium 3 bromide. The reason for that is because the TiBr2 compound contains Ti2 plus ions, positively charged 2 ion, while the TiBr3 compound contains a Ti3 plus ion, 3 plus positively charged ion. So in dealing with transitions metal, we need to use a Roman numeral to indicate the charge of the ions. So let's try on TiO. We know Ti stands for titanium, and O stands for oxygen, but we use oxide because of again the ionic compound. Titanium oxide, is it titanium 1 oxide or titanium 2 oxide or titanium 3 oxide? We need to find the charge of the titanium ion to know the name of it. So oxygen has a charge of 2 minus, so titanium has to have the same charge. So titanium has to be plus 2 to be balanced. So the whole TiO charge is 0 to be balanced. We know oxygen has a minus 2 charge, so titanium has a 2 plus charge. then the name will be titanium 2 oxide. Another example is T2O3. We know Ti stands for titanium and oxygen stands for change to oxide, but the charge is different from the previous one. So 2 titanium atoms plus 3 oxygen atoms, and the whole charge should be balanced or 0. We know oxygen has the -2 charge, so 2 times 3 atoms equals to -6. 2 Ti plus -6 equals to 0. 2 Ti equals to 6, then Ti equals to 3 plus charge. To make the whole equation balance, we need 2 titanium atoms, so 3 plus 3 equals 6, and a 2 oxygens, so 2 times 3. So, 2 titanium atoms at a 3 charge, plus 3 charge, and 2 oxygen atom at a -2 charge. So we got titanium plus 3 oxide. I think that's all for the introduction of naming the ionic and covalent or molecular compound. Thank you for watching and see you guys next time.